The broken engagement. A love story that ended before the wedding. After dating for 5 years, my fiancé Dominic shattered my world during what was supposed to be a romantic date night at that little Italian place downtown, the one with the twinkling lights and handwritten menus where couples leaned close over shared tiramisu. I had worn my favorite blue dress, the one he always said brought out my eyes, and even bought his preferred craft beer for the fridge at home, but as soon as we sat down I knew something was wrong. His fingers drummed the tabletop instead of reaching for mine. His gaze kept darting to the door like he wanted to escape. When the waiter brought our wine, he gulped his down like water, not the slow savoring sips he usually took. I tried to laugh it off, asking if he had a secret second family stashed somewhere, but then he dropped the words that would unravel everything. I'm not sure I'm ready for this marriage, the wedding, all of it. My fork clattered against the plate. The voices around us blurred into static. How could 5 years, 8 months of engagement and a ring on my finger lead to this moment? The car ride home was suffocating, the silence so thick I could barely breathe. That night he slept on the couch for the first time ever. The next morning he left without a word, heading to the Rusty Nail to watch the game with his buddies, while I numbly called Lena, my best friend since college, who immediately dragged me to a cafe, where I spilled everything between sobs. She kept saying it was just pre-wedding jitters, that Dominic loved me, but her eyes held doubt. Later that evening my phone buzzed with a text from Kyler, his co-worker who I barely knew, saying, "Hey, are you okay? Things got weird at the bar today." My stomach twisted as he explained how Dominic, after several beers, had joked to the whole group if she were prettier I'd marry her tomorrow, then laughed like it was nothing when Kyler and others called him out. Dominic just shrugged, saying they couldn't take a joke. I spent that night at my brother Elliot's place, curled into a ball on his lumpy guest bed, replaying every memory, searching for signs I'd missed. The next morning Valerie, Dominic's mom, called crying, begging me to meet her at the little coffee shop near her house. Her voice shook in a way I'd never heard before. When I arrived, her usually perfect makeup was smudged, her hands trembling around her teacup. She told me through tears that Dominic had called her last night, confessing he developed feelings for Maria, a new project manager at his company. Nothing physical happened, but he'd been texting her late at night, sharing things he never told me. Valerie said she recognized this pattern from when her own husband left her for a coworker 20 years ago. She didn't want me blindsided like she had been. I reached out to Maria, who agreed to meet at a neutral diner. She arrived looking just as nervous as I felt, her phone already open to their message thread, which showed nothing but work talk and occasional memes. She swore on her own long-term relationship that she never encouraged him and seemed genuinely shaken by the whole situation. Paul, however, had been whispering in Dominic's ear for months, feeding him horror stories about marriage and pointing to Maria as someone who understood him better than I ever could. With Valerie's help I arranged a family intervention at Karina's apartment, Dominic's sister, who had always been my ally. The air was thick with tension when we all sat down. Dominic pale and unshaven, Paul defensive, Valerie gripping my hand under the table. For hours we hashed it out, the real reasons behind his distance, his deep-seated fear of becoming his father, his resentment over wedding costs I had dismissed as stress, his growing belief that maybe we'd drifted apart without me noticing. But the worst moment came when I asked point blank if he still wanted to marry me, and he hesitated. That pause told me everything. 3 months later I signed the lease on my own little apartment with a balcony where I'm learning to keep plants alive. Dominic started therapy, finally addressing his father's abandonment issues. We've spoken only to divide our belongings. His family still texts me weekly, checking in. Valerie sends recipes. Karina meets me for brunch. Last week I booked a solo trip to the coastal town where we planned our honeymoon. At first the idea of going alone terrified me, but now I pack books I've been meaning to read and a swimsuit chosen just for me, not for anyone else's gaze. Some mornings I wake up reaching for him before remembering. Other days I dance in my empty kitchen just because I can. The grief comes in waves, but so does the freedom, and maybe that's enough for now.